British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good day, you're listening to BCIT's The Crow. I'm Kai Garcia, and these are your news headlines at 3. The province of British Columbia announced that they will be conducting an emergency broadcast test tomorrow, May 7 at 1:55 p.m. An advance notice is brought out as this test may cause distress or be triggering due to recent events. It is only a test and no action is required. They are hoping that the word will be spread. Prime Minister Mark Carney describes how his meeting in the White House with U.S. President Donald Trump went, stating that it is the end of the beginning as a new stage of U.S.-Canadian relationship, particularly focusing on trade.
That doesn't presuppose the outcome of the negotiation. As I've emphasized, it's a complex negotiation. There'll be zigs and zags, difficult aspects to it. But the prospect is there. We discussed it in more detail. And as I said a moment ago, we'll be following up both between officials, but also he and I in the coming weeks.
More on the anticipated meeting. It concluded but ended positively as they were respectful to each other. Karen Trevor summarizes on what went down in that meeting.
He had some really tough words for President Trump after his election win, talking about American betrayal, saying Canadians learned a lesson from what they have seen from the United States over the past couple of months. But today in the Oval Office, there were a lot of positive compliments going back and forth between President Trump and the Prime Minister, talking about the respect they have for each other and the work they would like to do between the two countries.
In BC, Washington State Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck is in Victoria as part of a delegation, and he says that ties between Washington State and British Columbia won't change despite the tariffs from U.S. President Donald Trump. He then comments on the meeting between Prime Minister and the President, saying that he rejects all calls of Trump wanting to annex Canada.
Well, first of all, it's deeply offensive. Secondly, in no attempt to one-up the Prime Minister, it's never going to happen. Washingtonians love Canada.
Staying local, the chair of the group that organized the Lapu-Lapu Festival in Vancouver, where 11 people were killed, says that there are talks underway to set up a permanent memorial near the site of the tragedy. R.G. Aquino of Filipino BC says that he's seen strangers leave as friends after bonding over the grief at the memorial site along the fence of a Vancouver high school, where thousands of flowers, candles, and notes of condolences have been placed. More on what happened over there. People all over the world are still mourning over the tragic Lapu-Lapu incident. Locally, Vancouverites are standing in solidarity with the Filipino community. Our reporter, Clara Lonto, has more on the impact of this incident and what it has on the Asian community.
The events that happened on April 26th caused fear in the hearts of locals. However, alongside fear, communities are being built to support those affected. Monica Uridia, a core member of the Asian Canadian Labor Alliance, talks about what she hopes for the community in the future.
While this happened specifically at a Filipino community event, I would hope that it doesn't deter folks from organizing something in the future, especially when you're trying to gather folks in a celebration of cultural resistance.
ACLA encourages people to support those affected from the incident by donating. This can be made on the Filipino BC Together We Are Kapwa Strong website at filipinobc.com. All proceeds will go to the victims and their families who are in need of support. Clara Lonto, BCIT News.
To follow on the festival, Vancouver City Mayor Ken Sim said that the incident stemmed from mental health issues. Arden McLeod spoke to the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association BC Division, Johnny Morris, about the mental health crisis.
Not every mental health crisis is visible, and even when care exists, people often can't access timely support. CEO of BC's Canadian Mental Health Association, or CMHA, Johnny Morris, says a major barrier is affordability.
For many people, there's a real financial barrier between being able to access evidence-based therapies that work. So in a high-functioning voluntary system, we'd want to remove that barrier. We want them to have good, ready access to community-based care.
Morris says improving access to community counseling would help people earlier in their recovery, before a crisis point. Arden McLeod, BCIT News.
I have Arden McLeod on the line today to explain more on the situation. So Arden, how has the organizations, in mental health responded to the Lapu-Lapu tragedy?
Well, the Canadian Mental Health Association hosted an emergency support webinar just days after the incident, the Monday following, April 26th, which had 1,200 viewers across Canada. So that shows a lot of national concern. And Johnny Morris, the CEO of BC's division of the CMHA, emphasized the importance of caring for those impacted by trauma. He encourages them to reach out to 988, which is Canada's mental health crisis line.
Okay, so what are some issues that this tragedy has brought to light, and what says about our mental health system?
Well, Johnny Morris went on to say in our interview that people who are in distress aren't always visible, so you can't always see that they might need help. And it's important to get them support before they get to a crisis point. Morris says one major barrier is affordability. So even though there is help and care available to these individuals who need it, they may not be able to afford it. So BC's systems need more community-based care to provide support early on in their recovery, to facilitate prevention rather than reaction.
Okay, thank you, Arden, for that story. As we stay in mental health, only 19% of women over the age of 18 participate in sport, with age participation rates decrease every year, according to the Canadian Fitness and Lifestyle Research Institute. Physical Activities Monitor, Graciela Cruz Flores, explains why it's important for women to play sports.
Participating in sport can improve mental health. Studies by CPRA suggest that playing in organized sports can increase social connections and improve physical skills. However, women aged 18 and older tend to be less physically active than men. Vancouver resident Kim Morton plays in 4 different soccer teams, 3 co-ed and 1 women's team. Morton says playing soccer is what she turns to help decompress.
It keeps me going. It keeps me my mindset. So when I'm sad, soccer's where I go to.
After the COVID-19 pandemic, physical activity has helped Canadians stay balanced for everyday life, a form of self-care that does more than calm your nerves, but clear your mind against the toughest matches. Graciela Cruz Flores, BCIT News.
We have Graciela Cruz Flores in the studio with us today to tell us more. So Graciela, why is it important for women to stay active despite their busy schedules?
Well, studies suggest that women always tend to not be able to find at least up to an hour of exercise. We normally have maybe half an hour, or we only give ourselves half an hour. So sports could be such a good way to just add into your schedule because it's an organized sport. And so while you're doing this sport, it boosts up your morale, it boosts up your self-esteem, reduces anxiety and depression, and could even better your sleep.
Okay, so with that being said, sport is an often way to stay fit, but why is it important to do it for mental health, like Kim Morton?
Kim said that without the sport, she wouldn't be able to sit still. And so because she believes that her ADHD has her continuously looking for something to do, soccer was a way for her to just decompress and let all that energy out, so when she got home she was stress-free. And so organized sports can really be beneficial in making sure that you're getting a balanced life through exercise and through your work day, especially after a really, really heavy work day.
Thank you for sharing Kim's story and letting us know more on mental health. In Alberta, the province's Premier Danielle Smith says that she'll respect the wishes of Albertans voting for the separation if possible. She comes in saying that she will respect their decision. The weather today, according to Environment Canada, will be highs of 19 and lows of 14. For BCIT The Crow, I'm Kai Garcia.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good afternoon, I'm James Go, and these are your sports headlines to 3:15. The defense in the trial of the 5 Hockey Canada players began their cross-examination on Tuesday. Lawyers claim that the complainant, who goes by EM, brought up the idea to bring other players into the room, claiming that she wanted a, quote, wild night. Michael McLeod's lawyer suggested during cross-examination that EM wanted to keep the night going after her sexual encounter with McLeod. He also suggested that EM discussed having McLeod's friends over to have some fun. EM denies the claims, saying that it doesn't sound like something she would say. The courts heard EM's testimony on Monday, where she claimed that it was McLeod who invited his teammates without her knowledge. McLeod, as well as teammates Dylan Dubé, Callan Foote, Alex Formanton, and Carter Hart, pleaded not guilty to sexual assault. Toronto Maple Leafs goaltender Alex Stolarz has not been ruled out for Game 2 against the Florida Panthers. Stolarz was pulled from Game 1 in the second period with an injury and was taken to a nearby hospital. Backup Joseph Woll came into the game for relief, and the Leafs were able to win 5-4. Panthers forward Sam Bennett, who was the one that bumped into Stolarz, said that he did not intend to injure his old teammate.
I heard that he went to the hospital last night, and Stolarz is a good friend of mine. I reached out to him. He responded, and obviously never want to see an injury like that.
Game 2 of the series is scheduled for tomorrow at 4 p.m. There are 2 more NHL games scheduled today. At 4 p.m., the Carolina Hurricanes travel to D.C. to play the Washington Capitals. Both teams are coming off a strong first-round showing and look to continue that trend tonight. The last time these two played each other in the playoffs was the 2019 first round, which Carolina won. Afterwards, the Oilers head to the Sin City to play the Vegas Golden Knights at 6:30. Both teams were down in their respective series, but rallied back to win and advanced to round 2. This is a rematch of the 2023 second round, where Vegas defeated Edmonton in 6 games. In baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays kick off a 3-game series against the Los Angeles Angels after taking Monday off. Free agent signing Jose Urena will make his Blue Jays debut, while the Angels have announced left-hander Tyler Anderson as their starter. Urena was signed by the Blue Jays just yesterday as the team battles injuries on the pitching front. Both teams lost their respective series over the weekend and look to try and turn their seasons around. The Blue Jays won all 7 games against the Angels last season. The game will be played in Anaheim and will start at 7 p.m. The Seattle Mariners play the Athletics in the second game of their 3-game series. The Mariners now sit just 1 game ahead of the A's in the standings after an 11-inning loss to them on Monday night. Athletics shortstop Jacob Wilson drove in the game-winning run on an RBI single.
0-2 pitch back up the middle, a base hit! Wilson does it again! The savior in Sacramento! Chaos in the capital city, and the A's win 7-6!
Seattle will send right-hander Emerson Hancock to the mound as he starts his 5th game of the season. The Athletics will counter with left-hander Jeffrey Springs, who will make his 8th start of the season. The game will start at 7 p.m. In basketball, we have 2 NBA games today that will try and top the 2 games played last night. At 4 p.m., the Indiana Pacers and Cleveland Cavaliers play Game 2 of their series. The Pacers were able to win Game 1 in Cleveland, and hope to do it again before heading back home. Then, at 6:30, the Golden State Warriors and Minnesota Timberwolves play Game 1 of their series. Both teams pulled off a stunning upset in the first round, and will try and pull off another miracle in round 2. Kentucky Derby winner Sovereignty will not run in the Preakness Stakes. Trainer Bill Mott told Preakness officials that Sovereignty will race in the Belmont Stakes on June 7th, but won't race at the Preakness. This means that there will be no Triple Crown winner for the 7th straight year. The 2-week turnaround from the Kentucky Derby to the Preakness has raised concerns about horses' health. The last Triple Crown winner was Justify in 2018. The Preakness Stakes will be held on Saturday, May 7th. That's all for now. Thank you for listening. Once again, I'm James Ngo, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Trentanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane.